don't score to visuals, I score to story, right? It's very rare to meet somebody like you who wants the music niche. Whatever I'm creating, whatever my team is creating, it has to be the strongest support function. Everything I've learned about scoring has been from filmmakers. Hi, this is Anand Bhaskar and you're watching me on Radio City Freedom.
Hi Anand.
Hi Priyak, tell me.
Congratulations on Asar.
Thank you so much.
It's a beautiful track.
Thank you.
It's on a mini series.
It's not a series actually, it's a short film I scored for Amazon Mini and it's directed by one of my friends, Sakshi Gurnani. Talks about a very serious subject and I think everybody should watch it. Great film, I feel.
So sticking to the web series conversation, you have composed for quite a few of them. If we talk about the approach that you take or to break down your process for composing or scoring for a web series, what would that be?
So see, any OST really depends on, it's basic, you can sort of separate it in two components. One is songs and one is a soundtrack. So with songs, we have like a brief in mind, you know, that this is the situation and this is what's going to happen on screen. So the lyrics should be like this and this should be the genre. So we're pretty much restricted in terms of like these preset conditions. You know, melodically we're not restricted, of course, but like from the point of view of the world building for the song, we are restricted. But with the score, you know, my process is that I sit with the director and before I sit with the director, I read the script a bunch of times to the point of memorizing it that, okay, you know, this is the character, this is what each character, you know, brings to the story. Like I told you before, I don't score to visuals, I score to story, right? So then I sit with the director and then I tell him, okay, you know, him or her, that, you know, this is, since the story is sort of taking place in a particular region, let's use these instruments. Let's combine this with that. Now it also depends on, are the characters modern or are they old people, uneducated or educated? Like all these factors come into play, which kind of determine what the score should sound like. So for example, in Masoom, I sat with Mihir and I discussed a world. I told him that we should use a combination of stringed instruments like local folk instruments like the rabab, the banjo, mandolin, ukulele, even like percussive instruments like the thud and the dhol. But we should do like a combination of like a hybrid world cinema score so that people who watch it from a Punjab perspective don't feel like we've deviated musically from the region. But people who are also watching, who are not from the region, also get to enjoy the score from a world cinema point of view. So if you listen to the score, it's very world cinema. It's a hybrid score. There are orchestral elements, there are electronic elements, and there are folk elements. So the idea is that I build that world with the director even before the episodes start coming to me or the visuals start coming to me. And then I write a good 25-30 themes, like 3-minute long pieces, which start minimally and then they grow into like a big section. Through those themes, the director then, you know, kind of identifies the direction that we're going in musically. So when they send me their first cut, they put the themes that I've done, they loosely place it on the edit and they send it to me. And, you know, they tell me, okay, you know, out of the 30 themes you've done, 15 don't work, but these 15 work. So let's focus on these 15 and keep making something in that space. So eventually what happens is that roughly about 7 or 8 main themes get used over and over again. You know, in this case, for example, in Masoom, Mihir came to me, you know that theme that we used in episode 1, let's reinterpret it. Let's play it on another instrument and stuff like that. And then I come up with ideas. Okay, you know what, that theme was on a 4x4, let's change the time signature. Let's put it on a 5 or let's play it on a 7. So that there is that recall value ki yaar, ye kahin to suna tha humne, you know. But it still sounds new.
Anand, what or how do you see yourself or your role in that entire, you know, art form that is being made?
So the show is basically the main structure and music is one of the foundations, I feel, and music plays a support function. So for me, it's very important that firstly, I need to connect with the filmmaker, with the director at a human level. You know, they have to be a nice person, for me at least, because at the end of the day, हम ये क्यों कर रहे हैं? क्योंकि हमें मज़ा आता है. I don't want it to be one politicized role that, you know, I have to constantly think about what the director is going to say. So fortunately for me, the directors that I've worked with have always been the nicest human beings, and I don't have to have a filter with them. If they suggest something that I don't like, I can actually tell them, I don't think this idea works, and I know that they're not going to be offended, or they're not going to say कि मैं इतने time से काम कर रहा हूँ, ये कौन होता है मुझे बताने वाला. They're not going to be like that. So for me, that's very important. But I also understand that the director is the captain of the ship, like you rightly said when we were talking before. For me, it's important that whatever I write has to play a support function, because the music is not the hero in the project. The story is the hero. The people are going to be invested in the story and not in the music, right? And for me, that's very, very important. For me, I feel I'm successful when somebody is watching a scene that I've scored and they're so invested in the scene that the music has come and gone and they've not realized that there was music in the scene, and I think that's very important. While also I feel that it's important that whatever I score has to have a high recall, melodic value. So the melody is equally important for me. But at the same time, it should not distract the viewer from the story or the characters or what's happening on screen, I don't want my music to be loud enough to, drown out the dialogues or drown out the story in itself. So when I sit with even some of the sound engineers that I sit with, and they are really talented people, they know their work. They've been doing this for years. They tell me, yaar, it's very rare to meet somebody like you who wants the music niche. Like usually we get requests like, yaar, music ko up karo. I feel that whatever I'm creating, whatever my team is creating, it has to be the strongest support function. And that's what a support function does. The support function doesn't impinge onto the, whatever is supposed to be the primary sort of characteristic of the project. And in this case, it has to be the story. So I feel that my first and foremost role is to bring the vision of the director to life. And then, of course, when songs are created, and of course, as music composers, we get the kudos and the praise for it. That's just a happy side product, I feel.
So
and
are you a director's composer?
I like to think of myself like that. Every time I meet a new director, I tell them, you don't have to worry about me. I'm a director's composer. You tell me what you want and I'll give it to you. But I'll give it to you with my musical signature to it. And if you don't like it, we'll obviously modify it. If I am very convinced about something, I will convince you about it. So don't worry about it. So I always tell them that. And I think that's something that puts my directors at ease, because they immediately sense that there's not going to be an ego clash here. There's not going to be a sort of clash of sensibilities or whatever, because I'm very, very open. Because I feel that working with directors teaches a composer a lot, We start viewing content in a very different light. We start viewing content through the eyes of the filmmaker, and it helps us write better music, and it helps us score scenes better. That's what I feel. And everything I've learned about scoring has been from filmmakers.
Okay, taking it forward from there, a lot of music composers who have composed songs, once they get into that background score zone, they fall in love with it. Why? Why do you think that happens? And because I can definitely understand that you like scoring.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what happens is, I'll basically sort of try to explain this with an example. अब हमारे Indian music sort of consumer sensibilities में, the 4/4 time signature or the 7/8 time signature is very Indian. Like people just like immediately resonate with it. They don't have difficulty, understanding that time signature, that pulse. तो ज़्यादातर गाने हमारे जो बनते हैं in popular music are either on a 4/4 or a 6/8 or a 7/8. Very common Indian rhythms. Scoring में क्या होता है कि आप at least for me, I have tried time signatures like 11/4, 17/8, and filmmakers have liked it because it sounds different from a score point of view. So it's because it doesn't have to be consumed like a song. We have more freedom to do whatever we want in the score. Sometimes we record, say, a drum sample and put guitar distortion on it, like put like distortion on it, and then it results in something else, it results in something fresh. I'm just talking about a very simple example. So with scoring, what happens is all the musical experimentation that every musician eventually wants to do, they get to do that. And the more left of center the project is, the more experimentation they get to do, you know. So I feel that's why people fall in love with background score, and that's how I fell in love with scoring. Radio City.